The endless darkness of space suddenly erupted with blinding plasma fire. Massive alien warships blocked out the stars above New Horizon Colony, their metallic hulls gleaming with cold, calculated menace. The Krelvax invasion fleet had arrived, and they came with one purpose: total annihilation. Una Park stood by her family's living unit window, watching the first wave of destructive energy cascade across the colony's protective shields. Her father, a colony maintenance engineer, was already rushing to coordinate emergency protocols. Her mother clutched her younger brother, their faces illuminated by the growing chaos outside. The colony's defensive systems activated immediately, but they were overwhelmingly outmatched. Krelvax weapons technology was generations ahead of human defensive capabilities. Plasma bolts sliced through shield generators like heated knives through soft butter, exposing vulnerable infrastructure beneath. Una watched in horror as entire, residential clusters disintegrated. Buildings that had stood for decades, housing thousands of colonists, vanished in milliseconds. Screams began to echo through communication channels, a terrifying chorus of panic and desperation. Her father's voice crackled over the emergency comm system. "Everyone to the underground shelters, move now!" His professional tone masked the underlying fear. Una could hear the strain in his voice, knowing he was trying to maintain calm amid the growing catastrophe. The Park family moved quickly. Her mother grabbed emergency survival packs while her father checked the security of their protective gear. Her little brother, only 7, didn't fully comprehend the danger, but sensed the tension. His small hands gripped his mother's jacket tightly. Outside, Krelvax assault pods began landing. Mechanized warriors emerged, their exoskeletons gleaming with advanced weaponry. They moved with calculated precision, systematically targeting civilian structures. These were not soldiers interested in conquest. They were hunters seeking complete extermination. Una's father made a final communication attempt. "This is J. Kim, Colony Sector 7. We have multiple civilian casualties. Request immediate evacuation support." The response was static. All communication networks were being systematically destroyed. The first explosion near their living unit shook the ground. Windows shattered, sending razor-sharp glass fragments flying. Una's mother pushed her children toward the emergency escape tunnel, a last resort passage designed for extreme scenarios like this. But the Krelvax were efficient. As they moved, a plasma burst struck their escape route. The tunnel's reinforced entrance collapsed, trapping them. Una's father realized they were now completely isolated, with no chance of external rescue. "Listen carefully," he told Una, pressing a small data chip into her hand. "This contains colony defense protocols and invasion tracking information. You must survive. You must tell our story." Moments later, their living unit was breached. Alien warriors, towering and metallic, burst through the remaining walls. Their weapons charged, targeting each family member with cold, calculated precision. Una watched in slow motion as her parents were eliminated. Her brother's cry was cut short. In that moment, something inside her transformed. Terror gave way to a cold, burning determination. The escape pod was their last hope. Automated emergency. Systems could potentially launch it even under extreme conditions. With movements born of pure survival instinct, Una activated the pod's launch sequence. The pod's protective shell sealed just as another plasma wave consumed their living space. For a brief, terrifying moment, Una was suspended between destruction and potential survival. The pod's computer began its standard emergency protocols, scanning for the nearest human-controlled space station or colony. Outside, New Horizon Colony continued to burn. Thousands of lives were being systematically erased. But one small escape pod shot through the chaos, carrying the only witness to this unprecedented alien atrocity. Una Park, a 12-year-old survivor, would become the catalyst for humanity's most brutal response in galactic history. The Krelvax had made a fatal mistake. They didn't just attack a colony. They awakened a sleeping giant. As the escape pod's navigation systems engaged, a single tear rolled down Una's cheek. It wasn't a tear of sadness. It was a promise of revenge. The rescue shuttle's medical bay was cold and sterile. Yuna Park sat motionless, her eyes fixed on the blank metal wall. Medical sensors tracked her vitals, showing signs of extreme trauma that went far beyond physical injuries. Sung-Ho Park, the rescue team leader, watched her carefully. He had seen many survivors, but something about this young girl was different. Her eyes carried a depth of determination that seemed impossible for a 12-year-old who had lost everything. "We've secured her medical scan," Hae-Won Lee, the lead intelligence analyst, reported. Her fingers danced across holographic displays, processing the massive amount of data retrieved from Yuna's escape pod. "The neural mapping is unlike anything we've seen before." Specialized neural technicians worked carefully. They knew that Yuna's memories were more than just personal tragedy. They were potentially the most valuable military intelligence humanity had ever acquired. Days passed. Yuna spoke little, but her mind was a treasure trove of information. Through advanced psychological recovery techniques, fragments of her experience began to emerge. Each memory was a precise puzzle piece revealing the Krelvax invasion strategy. The military research team discovered something extraordinary. Yuna's traumatic experience had somehow enhanced her cognitive abilities. Her brain had created complex neural pathways that could reconstruct entire battle sequences with remarkable accuracy. "Look at these spatial recognition patterns," Hae-Won whispered to Sung-Ho. "She's not just remembering, she's analyzing. Her brain is processing invasion strategies like an advanced tactical computer." Specialized neural interfaces allowed Yuna to communicate without words. Her memories played out like hyper-detailed holographic projections. Krelvax ship configurations, weapon signatures, communication protocols, everything was laid bare. Military strategists worked around the clock. What seemed like a devastating massacre was now becoming humanity's most comprehensive intelligence breakthrough. Yuna's experience was transforming from personal tragedy to strategic advantage. Psychological evaluation revealed something unexpected. Instead of being broken, Yuna was calculating. Her emotional response had transformed into a cold, strategic mindset. She wasn't just a survivor. She was becoming a weapon. "The Krelvax thought they were destroying a colony," Sung-Ho remarked during a classified briefing. "Instead, they've created our most powerful intelligence asset." Weeks of careful treatment followed. Specialized therapists worked to help Yuna process her trauma, while military researchers extracted critical information. Her mind became a bridge between human survival and potential counterattack. The military began developing specialized training programs. Yuna would become more than a survivor. She would be a strategic consultant. Her unique neural patterns allowed her to think like the enemy while maintaining human emotional complexity. Advanced neural mapping revealed something unprecedented. Yuna could now predict Krelvax's tactical movements with shocking accuracy. Her brain had developed an almost supernatural ability to anticipate alien strategic thinking. "She's not just remembering," one neuroscientist noted, "she's predicting." Her brain has essentially learned to think like the Krelvax tactical network. Humanity had discovered its secret weapon. A 12-year-old girl, transformed by tragedy, was now the key to understanding and potentially defeating the most advanced alien invasion force in galactic history. Yuna's first words after weeks of silence were simple but powerful. "I want to help," she told Sung-Ho, her voice calm and steady. "They took everything from me. Now I'll take everything from them." The rescue team exchanged knowing glances. This wasn't a child speaking. This was a strategic mind being born from the ashes of destruction. The Krelvax had created their own worst nightmare, a human survivor who would become their ultimate threat. As classified reports began circulating through military channels, one thing became clear. Yuna Park was no longer just a survivor. She was humanity's most powerful weapon of vengeance. The military research complex buzzed with intense energy. Woojin Choi, the lead strategic planner, studied holographic displays showing Krelvax invasion data. His team worked in perfect synchronization, transforming Yuna's memories into a comprehensive battle strategy. Advanced computer systems processed terabytes of alien tactical information. Each detail from Yuna's neural mapping became a potential weapon. The military understood that traditional warfare would not work against the technologically superior Krelvax. Yun Jiquan, weapons development lead, created something revolutionary. Her team designed adaptive weapon systems that could change configurations mid-battle. Traditional missiles were replaced with intelligent combat platforms that could learn and adjust during combat. "We're not just creating weapons," Yunji explained. During a classified briefing, "We're developing living combat systems that can think faster than the enemy." Psychological warfare experts led by Hyunwoo Shin developed complex communication disruption protocols. They discovered that the Krelvax relied heavily on centralized communication networks. By understanding these networks, humans could create targeted technological viruses. Yuna participated actively in strategy sessions. Her unique neural connection with Krelvax tactical thinking provided insights no traditional intelligence could capture. She could predict alien response patterns with unnerving accuracy. Specialized training programs were created. Soldiers underwent intensive psychological and technological preparation. They learned to think beyond traditional combat, understanding that this war would be won through intelligence and adaptation. Quantum computing teams developed complex simulation environments. They could now model thousands of potential battle scenarios in minutes. Each simulation incorporated Yuna's detailed memories, creating increasingly accurate predictive models. The military understood that conventional strength meant nothing against the Krelvax. They needed something different, an approach that combined technological innovation, psychological warfare, and unexpected tactical thinking. Advanced neural interface technology allowed soldiers to connect directly with combat systems. This meant faster response times and more integrated battlefield communication. Soldiers could now think and act as one unified combat organism. Satellite networks were redesigned to create invisible communication channels. These networks could transmit information using quantum encryption methods that the Krelvax communication systems could not detect or interrupt. Yuna's continued involvement was crucial. Her ability to understand alien psychology became a primary strategic asset. She could predict not just tactical movements, but emotional and strategic responses of the Krelvax leadership. Weapon systems incorporated biological adaptation technologies. Projectiles could now change shape, penetration capacity, and destructive potential based on real-time battlefield conditions. Traditional weapons became intelligent combat platforms. Space combat strategies were completely reimagined. Instead of large battleships, humanity would use swarm tactics. Thousands of smaller, intelligent combat units could overwhelm and confuse Krelvax defensive systems. Artificial intelligence systems were integrated into every aspect of military preparation. These systems could process battlefield information millions of times faster than human commanders, creating dynamic and unpredictable combat strategies. Medical teams developed advanced regenerative technologies. Soldiers could now recover from injuries faster, with cybernetic enhancements that could rebuild damaged tissue within minutes of injury. The entire military infrastructure transformed. This was no longer about traditional warfare. This was about creating a comprehensive, adaptive combat ecosystem that could learn, modify, and overcome any technological challenge. "The Krelvax think they understand human weakness," Wu Jin told his team during a final preparation briefing. "They will learn that our greatest strength is our ability to adapt, to learn, and to overcome." Specialized training facilities were constructed. These were not traditional military bases but complex learning environments where soldiers could experience simulated alien combat scenarios thousands of times before actual engagement. As preparation reached its final stages, one thing became clear. Humanity was no longer preparing for a defensive war. They were preparing for a calculated, precise act of technological vengeance. The tactical preparation was complete. The real battle was about to begin. Yuna watched the preparations, a small smile forming on her face. The Krelvax had no idea what was coming. The first waves of human strike teams moved like silent shadows across the dark expanse of space. Kibium Park, The strike team commander watched holographic displays tracking multiple assault points. This wasn't just a military operation, it was calculated revenge. Precision was everything. Each target had been identified through Yuna's neural mapping and advanced AI simulations. The Krelvax would never see this coming. Da Yun Kim, the tactical AI coordinator, monitored communication networks. Quantum encryption made human movements completely invisible. Krelvax defensive systems would detect nothing until the moment of impact. The first strike hit a critical communication hub. Thousands of intelligent nanoweapons penetrated alien infrastructure, causing systemic collapse within minutes. Communication networks crumbled like fragile glass, leaving Krelvax units suddenly blind and isolated. Junho Lee led special operations teams that targeted specific strategic points. Each mission was designed not just to destroy, but to psychologically devastate the alien forces. They weren't just attacking infrastructure, they were dismantling the Krelvax sense of technological superiority. Supply lines disappeared. Critical resource stations vanished. Entire defensive platforms were reduced to floating debris. The human attacks were surgical, precise, and utterly ruthless. Yuna provided real-time tactical insights. Her neural connection allowed commanders to predict alien response patterns with frightening accuracy. Every Krelvax defensive move was anticipated and countered before it could be implemented. Specialized combat units moved like liquid metal across different planetary systems. They weren't traditional soldiers. They were adaptive combat platforms that could change tactics millisecond by millisecond. The Krelvax leadership began to panic. Their supposedly impenetrable defense systems were being systematically destroyed. Communication intercepts revealed growing confusion and terror among alien command structures. Psychological warfare protocols were executed perfectly. Holographic displays showing destroyed colonies were transmitted across Krelvax communication networks. Each transmission was designed to break alien morale systematically. Advanced weapon systems demonstrated capabilities beyond alien understanding. Missiles that could think. Defensive platforms that could predict and counter before an attack was even conceived. Humanity had transformed warfare into an intelligent, adaptive ecosystem. Critical alien research facilities were targeted. Years of technological development were erased in moments. The Krelvax watched helplessly as their most advanced projects disintegrated before their eyes. Space became a chessboard of calculated destruction. Human strike teams moved with a precision that seemed almost supernatural. Each movement was a carefully calculated response to alien defensive capabilities. Quantum computing systems allowed commanders to simulate thousands of potential scenarios in seconds. This meant human forces could adapt faster than the Krelvax could even comprehend a threat. The retribution wasn't just military, it was systematic psychological warfare. The Krelvax were being shown the true meaning of technological superiority. Entire planetary defense systems collapsed. Communication networks became graveyards of broken technology. The aliens who had confidently destroyed human colonies now watched their own infrastructure crumble. Yuna watched from the command center, her eyes reflecting the holographic displays of destruction. This wasn't just revenge. This was a message. A clear statement about the consequences of targeting human civilians. Advanced AI systems coordinated attacks across multiple star systems. The Krelvax found themselves fighting an enemy that could think faster, adapt quicker, and strike with unprecedented precision. Military strategists had transformed warfare into an art form. Each strike was calculated. Each movement was designed to maximize psychological and technological impact. The Krelvax leadership realized too late what was happening. This wasn't a traditional war. This was a systematic dismantling of their entire technological and military infrastructure. As the final stages of the Retribution campaign unfolded, one thing became crystal clear. The human response would be remembered. Across galaxies, the civilization that the Krelvax had thoughtlessly attacked was about to demonstrate why you should never underestimate a species F. The final confrontation arrived with a silence more terrifying than any weapon. Sujin Han, the diplomatic negotiator, stood on the observation deck of the primary human command ship. Before her stretched the remnants of the Krelvax battle fleet. broken, defeated, desperate. Minky Kang, representing the Galactic Tribunal, prepared the most comprehensive surrender document in interstellar history. This wasn't just a military defeat. This was total systemic destruction. Rael Pax, the Krelvax surrender coordinator, looked broken. His species' technological superiority had been completely dismantled. Humanity had done more than defeat them. They had systematically erased their entire military infrastructure. Una Park stood silently beside the diplomatic team. She was no longer just a survivor. She had become the symbol of humanity's unbreakable spirit. Her presence alone made Krelvax representatives tremble. The surrender terms were brutal and precise: complete demilitarization, total economic restrictions, permanent monitoring of all Krelvax technological development. Every system would be controlled, every resource tracked. Massive holographic displays showed the extent of Krelvax losses. Entire planetary systems had been reduced to technological wastelands. Their most advanced research facilities were now nothing more than floating debris. "You destroyed our children," Una spoke quietly. Her voice carried more weight than entire military battalions. "Now you will understand loss." The Galactic Tribunal listened as human representatives outlined the comprehensive restructuring of Krelvax society. No military development would be permitted. All technological advancements would be reviewed and approved by human committees. Reparations would be paid not just in resources but in complete cultural reconstruction. Krelvax would be required to rebuild the human colonies they had destroyed, working under direct human supervision. Communication networks were permanently restricted. The once advanced alien civilization was being reduced to a carefully monitored protectorate. Their technological progress would be slower than medieval human development. Military analysts calculated that it would take generations for the Krelvax to recover. Their entire societal structure was being systematically dismantled, piece by piece. Una's neural mapping had provided insights that allowed humans to understand and neutralize every potential Krelvax resistance strategy. They had been mapped, analyzed, and completely neutralized. The surrender ceremony was cold and calculated. No dramatic speeches, no emotional displays, just pure, systematic legal documentation that would bind the Krelvax for generations. Scientific research showed that the psychological impact of defeat would be more devastating than any physical destruction. The Krelvax would spend generations understanding the consequences of their initial attack. Human monitoring teams would be permanently stationed across Krelvax territories. Every technological development, every communication, would be tracked and controlled. The message was clear. Humanity would never again be seen as a weak civilization to be conquered. The price of attacking human colonies would be total and complete destruction. Psychological reconstruction programs were designed to fundamentally alter Krelvax cultural understanding. They would learn empathy, understand consequences, and recognize the value of civilian life. Una watched as the final documents were signed. Her eyes reflected no anger, no hatred, just a cold, calculated understanding that justice had been served. Galactic Tribunal established unprecedented precedents. The attack on human civilians would be remembered as a turning point in interstellar conflict resolution. Rael Pax signed the final surrender document with hands that trembled. He understood that his civilization had been completely and permanently altered. There would be no recovery, no rebellion. As the ceremony concluded, Una approached the Krelvax representatives. Her presence alone was more terrifying than any weapon. She represented the living consequence of their actions. "Remember this moment," she said quietly. "Remember why you should never harm those who cannot defend themselves." The final judgment was complete. Humanity had not just won a war, they had redefined the entire concept of interstellar conflict, fighting for survival.